Well, I've had a fun week so far. I went to the zoo on Monday, the Henry Dorley Zoo on Monday with my mom, my sister's kids, and my younger niece's boyfriend. And that was a lot of fun, but it was effing hot. So effing hot. We knew it was going to be hot. This is Nebraska. This is summer. If it's not hot, it's like, okay, well, that's not normal, but we'll take it. Um, um, saying for Nebraska, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It might change. No, it was just hot all day. Um, very hot. And then it was so hot Tuesday as well. And Wednesday it was very hot. And then Wednesday night we had a huge thunderstorm roll through that had like 80-mile-per-hour winds, according to the airport. And the heat dropped from like 90, almost from like 100 degrees all the way down to like 70 something degrees for the temp in that time frame, which is a big drop. And lots of wind. We had rain. Not a huge amount of lightning as far as I was aware of, but I'm pretty sure we had lightning. We had about 30,000 people, I think, lost power. Some of our reservoirs lost power, which was not good, so we had to, kind of conserve water a little bit. Both my dad and my sister lost power. Some of my aunts and uncles lost power as well because the storm hit Omaha too. So we had we had a big storm roll through, and thankfully we did not lose power. If anything, we would have, invited people over so they could spend time here in the air conditioning. But thankfully we did not lose power. And so that was fun. But then I was sick. So that wasn't fun either. That was not fun. So I had to miss work yesterday. And I would have done the chapter review, but the chapter wasn't up until like 10 something at night. And I'm like, well, I can't do the review. It's too late. So now I get to do the review. Okay. One Piece chapter 1122. 1122. I believe it is called The Time is at Hand. And I read that title and I'm like, my mind jumped to Hercules because that's the way my brain works. Is there a Disney thing here that I can draw from? Probably. Well, then I will. There's the prophecy in the Hercules movie that's like, the planets will align in 18 years precisely. The planets will align ever so nicely. And, and it's like, and the time will be at hand. Unleash the Titans, your monstrous band. And the once proud Zeus will finally fall. And you, Hades, will rule all. So I'm like, my brain went there. If you want to reference there. So the cover of Shonen Jump this week is a bunch of the different characters from a bunch of the different current shonen manga. We've got Luffy, we got Izuku, because this week is also the ending of My Hero Academia, which I have very much enjoyed reading and very much enjoyed watching, so we'll see everything that ends up there. There's also a bunch of other ones in the background. There's the kid from Jujutsu Kaisen, and there's a bunch of other ones in the background that I can't recognize because I haven't read them. So I don't know there. For the cover page for the chapter is actually a really cool looking picture of Smoker, which is nice. And the caption is, it's cover request, a certain boy from Achi drew fan art of Smoker 22 years ago. Please recreate it. And I think this is supposed to be a reference to Horikoshi, who writes My Hero, because it's supposed to be a tribute to the fact that My Hero Academia is finishing up after 10 years. So that's just kind of nice there. So into the story, we pretty much back into the chapter, we pretty much leave off right where we left off. Vegapunk is still just kind of finishing up his message to the world, and we're getting some more reactions. We cut to what is probably Dressrosa, because it looks like the Dressrosa buildings that look like they've been through some reconstruction, which is good. And they're like, the fate of the world depends on pirates, and they're just like, oh god, that's not a good thing. And they're like, another location. Hold on a second. What is this madness, Vegapunk? It looks like we went to like a tropical island with some guys with like tropical tattoos. They look like they could have walked out of Moana, in all honesty. And then we cut to a winter island, which might be the Karakuri Island, but I'm not sure. And it's just like, no way, will our country sink too? The Navy has to do something. So it's just like lots of panicking citizens, which is fair. You find this information, it's just like pirates. Pirates are trying to get this treasure that can try to, possibly sink the entire world. That's not a good thing. And then we cut to just a bunch of random pirates. They might be on Hachinosu. It's not specific, but a bunch of pirates, and they're just like, the world's greatest genius just said it's real. Let's go get it. The One Piece is out there. So just lots of random looking pirates. So that's just kind of fun there. And then we cut down to Impel Down, and we're seeing the reactions of some of the prisoners and some of the guards. And the prisoners are like, it's about time we pirates ran the show. And they're just like, yay. And it's just like, the world's gonna sink anyway. Leave some for us. And it's just like the government won't know what hit them. Now, to be fair, I don't think any of these prisoners, they might just be new ones that are in there since Luffy did the jailbreak. They may just other ones who did not, get out during the jailbreak 2 years ago. There's that. We're cutting to, the control room inside of Impel Down where we're seeing some of the guards, and they're just like, why are you letting them hear the message? And it's just like, every sail of the prison is playing it. We can't stop them. Because, they have all of the different, security Dendenmushi around Impel Down, which we saw this when Luffy and Buggy and such were running around in Impel Down 2 years ago for the prison break and everything. We saw them running around, so it's like we know that they have these monitoring snails all over the place. So it's just like they got hijacked too, and we're playing the message. So that explains how Doflamingo and Magellan were hearing it as well. Magellan having a transponder snail with him to help him communicate if there's something that he needs to communicate with one of the other guards makes sense. But these other snails going off all over the prison makes sense as well for why the prisoners would have been able to hear this. And then we cut to what I think is probably supposed to be inside Marine HQ, and we just see a bunch of the other random vice admirals and rear admirals and whatnot. I think we see Stainless, and some other ones, and they're just like, how could you, Vegapunk? So it's they all just angry. And we cut to the Marine Hospital where we saw Kobe the last time, where he is currently healing. And along with the other sword members, because we see Hibari there, and I think we see Prince Groose off to the side. But Kobe is thinking, and he's thinking back to when him and Luffy first met, back when they were first, on the little rowboat on their way to what would be Shellstown. He's just like, Luffy-san, and he's remembering the conversation where he was talking to, Luffy way back when, 3 years ago at this point in time, give or take. And he's just like, King of the Pirates, but you'd have to make the whole world kneel to you. Don't tell me you're after the One Piece. And it's just Kobe's just like, oh my god, you can't do that. And Luffy's just smiling. So, and then Kobe, for as much as Luffy is his friend and as much as he admires Luffy, he's just like, I have to stop you from achieving your dream. Which, given the fact that, it's okay, first of all, pretty much us as a fan base, and probably even Kobe, and even the Marines who know Luffy well enough, Garp, and even, maybe Tashigi and Smoker, if they're probably aware of the fact that, if Luffy got his hands on, some world-destroying weapon, and he knew that that's what it was, or world-conquering weapon and knew that that's what it was, Luffy's not going to use it for that. He's not going to use it to conquer the world. That's not what Luffy wants. Luffy wants to become the king of find the One Piece, become king of the pirates, and then achieve whatever the other part of his dream is. Giant party, everybody's free, blah, 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 whatever the case is. And in that regard, Luffy is still, that's what Luffy wants to do. But it's not that Luffy would have these malicious intentions. That's but Luffy also wouldn't be on the side of oh, I want to save the world necessarily. If it was, he had to save the world to save his friends, he would do that because he's going to save his friends. But it's not his intention is going to be, oh, well, I found this device that allows me to do this. I wonder if I should use it. depending on the circumstances, if it was going to save the places where his friends were, like, you know, Dressrosa, Fishman Island, stuff like that, you know, Wano, all these other places that were like where his friends are, he would want to protect them because he cares about those people, because he, you know, wants to make sure that they're safe. But for the whole world, maybe not. But like has been pointed out, it's like depending on stuff, if Luffy gets his hands on the weapon, on the, you know, whatever it is, he could then give it to someone else, like give it to Sabo for the revolutionaries, or give it to Kobe, even in that regard, because, you know, Kobe would be a Marine that Luffy would trust to make this decision, because that's just the way that that's the way that Luffy is. He trusts Kobe because he knows that Kobe is a good person and he is a good Marine, but he is a good person first and foremost. So, like, Luffy might do that. So it's just like, Kobe, you may not necessarily have to stop Luffy, but he may just give you this weapon anyway and be like, here, you do what you think is best with this, because I certainly don't want it. So that might be what happens there. Then we cut to Kalibali Island, where we see Buggy. And Buggy is just... he's on fire right now, because they, of course, got this message, because we saw them all listening to this message. Vegamonk's message. So Buggy's like, you're all dummies calling it my world now. You don't really want that, right? And they're like, Chairman Buggy! And he's just like, it's our world, ain't it? I'm like, Buggy's on a roll here. He's on a roll. And they're just like, Chairman Buggy! It's like, we'll follow you to the depths of hell. And I'm just like, if all y'all knew how much he was literally full of hot air. But I love that. And then, of course, we cut back to Crocodile and Crocodile and Mihawk, who are just sitting there behind Buggy. And they're just like, Crocodile's just like, just sit. And Buggy's like, right, yeah, that's right. I'm not actually in charge around here. So Buggy's just like, why did I do that? Why do I keep putting my own foot in my mouth? Which, for Buggy, putting his own foot in his mouth is a lot easier than other people putting their own foot in their mouth, because, you know, he's Buggy. By the way, I've mentioned this before. My niece and her fiance are currently, you know, they started One Piece. They're partway into East Blue. They're at, like, at Arlong Park right now. And I had told her that, like, you know, I mentioned, you know, like, well, Buggy shows back up and some of the others show back up. And she's like, I don't like Buggy. His power creeps me out. And I'm like, I can see why. But he shows back up again. He gets character development. And she's like, okay. She's going to be 21 this month. Oh, my God. She was 6 when One Piece came out. So that gives you some... or One Piece was 6 years. Been out for 6 years by the time she was born. So we cut back to where we cut to Katarina Devon, who has Van Augur and Caribou with her, because they're on their way back to Hachinosu. So she's on the snail with Teach, and she's saying, what should we do, Teach? We could just kill him. And Teach is just like, Caribou? Like, he's like maybe aware of who Caribou is. And Caribou's in the background, and he's just like, Commodore Teach, I'm sure my information will please you. Because, like, you know, Caribou is, you know, scum. And he's begging for his own life with information that he should not have in the first place. And Teach is just like, nah, bring him to me. It's fine. If, you know, I'll just put him down if the info is a dud. It's just like, yeah, that's good to know. He's just like, yeah, no, bring him here. It'll be entertaining. If he's not useful, I'll just kill him. It's like, I believe that you could. I very much believe that you could. So that's not that's not a problem. Problem is that we know that Caribou's information is real. It's true about Neptune and Pluton, or about Poseidon and Pluton, excuse me, about those two, that information. And the thing is, it's like, back to my point about, like, Luffy having, like, if Luffy found this weapon, it's just like, Robin gave him the option of trying to go after Pluton when they were just in Wano, when she found out where it is. And Luffy's like, nah, I don't want it. It's like, there you go. That right there will tell you that Luffy probably isn't going to want this weapon. Whatever the One Piece weapon type thing is, depending on the certain circumstances. Now, if it's something funny, then that would be a little bit different. But if it's just like a straight up weapon, probably not something that Luffy's going to want. Unless it's a giant mech. That might be something Luffy would want, would be a giant mech. He has a giant robot helping him right now. I hear Giant helping him now. Just make it a giant mech. That'll work. Have One Piece done mech anime stuff yet? Not super much. But we cut back to Vegapunk's message, and we just get like not even like a full sentence out of it, and he's just like, "That is the truth. Bzz. Joy Boy, bzz, he bzz." And we cut to where we see Mercury has slammed into Emmett and just sent him flying, and caused a lot of damage to him. Dorian Brogger is just like, oh no, the Iron Giant. And we see the snail, the snail crashes, and then the shell explodes. So I'm pretty sure either the snail is dead, or at the very least the transponder setup is not going to work anymore. So that's done. Don't think we're going to be getting any more of the message right now. We cut to where the Thousand Sunny is still falling, and they are currently being chased by Nasjiro. So, in all honesty, as much as I love Atlas, I don't think that Atlas's sacrifice did too much. They allowed them to get off. They allowed them to get away from the island a little bit to get down, and bought them a little bit of time and used the explosion to, give them a boost, and they're falling. But beyond that, it didn't cause much. It didn't help too much. We see that the island itself is like still on fire from the Buster Call, along with just a lot of other stuff that's happening. And they're just like, the horse geezer is back. Do something, Zoro. And Zoro is just like reaching for his sword, and we see Nesjiro just very scarily still running at them. Usopp, Chopper, and Nami are rightfully freaking out. I don't blame them at all for that. We cut down to Emmett, who is thinking, and he's like, I'm sorry, Joy Boy. And then we get this great double page spread. We got a lot of double page spreads in this chapter. So this double page spread has, so we see Emmett, and Luffy is actually talking with him, because like, we know that Luffy can hear Emmett's thoughts because of him hearing the voice of all things. He can hear Emmett's thoughts. And Luffy is shouting, the giant robot! Huh? And then, Emmett is still thinking. He's just like, I wanted to apologize to you, too. I knew that there was no chance he would still be alive. And Luffy's just like, huh? And Luffy's like, did you mistake me for someone else? And Emmett's just like, you look just like him. It was nostalgic, and my feelings from that day came rushing back. I hope Joy Boy forgives me. And we see that the Thousand Sunny is still falling. It's almost to the ground. We see Saturn is like reforming, slowly reforming, although it's taking him longer than it has previously for him to reform. And we get this great shot of, we see Peter and Mercury, and then Saturn is there as well. And then we also see Nasjiro coming down. Nasjiro's size compared to the other ones is quite a bit smaller, depending on what the perspective is here. But he does appear to be bigger than the Sunny. Not that that's saying much in this case, with the giant frickin' pig and the giant frickin' earthworm coming down on him. And we see Luffy floating above the ship of the giants, which I think is the Great Eric. I think it's supposed to be like the Great Eric is what was the name of the ship of the giants before, but I don't remember if that's this one or not. And they're falling, and we see Emmett still on the beach in front of all four of the elders, while the Sunny is just now behind him. And Emmett is still thinking, I failed to make him king. And we just see the marine ships in the water. Some of them are badly damaged, and they're just like, whoa, a giant worm, this is bad, we're going to sink. And whether that's the giants or whether that's the marines is left up for debate. And Luffy's thinking, king? And then Emmett's like, what is your name? And we cut to the next double page spread. And Luffy's like, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who's gonna be king of the pirates. Of course. Call back. And Emmett's like, D? As in, like, the will of D, as in, like, that definitely means something to him. And then Emmett seems to reach inside of himself and pull out what looks like a rope that's, like, knotted, and he's gonna, like, pull the rope, and what's going to happen is it's going to release this just huge amount of this black lightning Conqueror's Haki in a moment. But I wanted to do a callback to something because there was, something that this made me think of, and it probably made other people think of it as well, is that, so this concept of, like, tying something in a knot and holding it there, compressing it down, is not new in One Piece, because way back when all the Straw Hats were split apart, Nami ended up on Witheria. And first of all, Witheria have, I believe, been listening to this broadcast. We saw Herodotus listening to the broadcast, but one of the things that Herodotus showed Nami, like almost right after she woke up, was this rope that when he untied it, it released, like, this huge gusts of wind. And it's just like, this is a very similar concept here. It's like, because, like, they're weather wizards, and, like, they've been studying stuff, so it's like they figured out how to, like, tie wind up in a knot in a rope, and then when you open it, when you untie the knot, it releases this bursts of wind. And in this case, Emmett is doing something very similar here, where he is, opening up, he's going to pull and release this, compressed amount of Haki that's from Joy Boy. We'll find that out in a minute. And it's going to release that. And that he's been holding on to it for, like, so long, for, 800 years or whatever, depending on how long Emmett's actually been around. At least 200 years, depending on if he was sent forward by a previous user of the time fruit of Toki's fruit. But so it's just like he's going to release that, and we see that here where he just releases it, and he's just like, he's kind of laughing, and then he's just like, hey, Luffy, thank you. You let me hear that nostalgic rhythm one last time. And we just see this huge blast of the Conqueror's Haki with all the black lightning coming out. And a bunch of the Marines faint. All the lower rank Marines are just, like, fainting. And Luffy is just like, Conqueror's Haki? Like, he's just amazed by the fact that this robot is using Conqueror's Haki. And we get this great shot of coming all the way out from Egghead Island, where there's these just huge blasts of the black lightning coming off in regards to, like, how far reaching this attack is from Emmett. And Emmett's like, don't die. I won't let you die. And because my inner child, because there's lots of comparisons between, like, Emmett and the Iron Giant from the Iron Giant, which I am going to be doing reviews of lots of non-Disney, non-Pixar, non-DreamWorks animated movies. I've started on that. One of those movies will eventually be The Iron Giant, but I haven't gotten to that one yet. That's a little ways down the line. But this just reminds me of the moment in the movie where, the Iron Giant is like, you stay, I go, be Superman and go take care of the missile. So that way it doesn't blow everybody up. And in this case, it's kind of the opposite of, like, no, you go, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to take out these monsters. And that's, like, what's happening here. So we get another double page spread. And, like, this one has, like, all of the Haki still going off all over the place. We cut to the Marine ships where we see just, like, tons of the lower ranked Marines are just, like, passing out. Doll did not pass out. She's still a child, but she hasn't been knocked out yet. So I think some of, like, the other vice admirals probably haven't been knocked out yet. And she's just like, is this Haki? It's so strong. And we see Pomsky, and he's just like, who's causing it? And we just see more and more of the Haki going off, and we see it, like, just, Emmett may have been able to try to, like, focus as much of it at the elders as possible, because he is just, like, sending a huge weight. Like, the elders are basically, like, they all got knocked out of their monster forms, or yokai forms. Warkari got turned back into his human form. They all did. And they all seem to be just, like, taking, like, just kind of being, like, like, blown away like a mirage. And we cut back to Marigeois, cut back to Castle Pangea, back to the Room of Authority. And we cut through that, and we cut to where Mars is already there, so that must have been where he got sent back to after he got sent flying by Luffy and Bonnie and Frankie and Sanji doing their combo attack on him. So he got sent back here, and he's sitting down. I think this is one of the first times we've seen him sitting down. And then we see Mercury, Jupiter, and Nosturo have arrived back here as well, and they all look very, like, they're all huffing and puffing, and Mars is just silence, like, dot, dot, dot. And then we cut into the flower room, where we see Eam, and Eam is, like, screaming. And there's a servant there who's just like, oh, great Emu, like, oh no. And Eam is just, again, still in silhouette, and Eam is just, like, shaking and just, like, thinking, Joy Boy. Like, oh, no. Which, we already kind of figured there was this connection between, it's already been revealed that there is this connection between the Gorosei and Eam, with them being able to, like, telepathically communicate with each other. And Eam seems to have then felt this huge blast of the Conqueror's Haki that had been, like, tied up and compressed inside of Emmett from Joy Boy. How Joy Boy did that, I don't know, but whatever. It'll get explained later. But, so they're just like, oh, that's, he's just like, oh, that's not good. And he is just like, and now, we still don't see anything else of Eam's face, but Eam definitely is in pain right now, and there is this other servant who knows of Eam. So we know that there has to be other servants that at least somewhat know of Eam, and the fact that they bring Eam, food and water and, anything else, tend to any of Eam's needs at that point in time. So there's certain ones that know about him, and they're probably ones that are, like, very trusted servants. Possibly even, like, the actual, children of the Gorosei would make sense, because they would be raised with this indomitable allegiance and loyalty to Eam. So that's a possibility. Back to Egghead Island. Sunny lands safely in the water. Good girl. Sunny lands safely in the water, whether that is via a combination of Luffy making the water bouncy and it's able to land safely, whatever, I don't know. But they land safely, and Luffy's just like, glad you guys made it. And they're just like, Luffy, what happened to those monsters? His, like, questions being thrown at Luffy. And he's like, no idea. They disappeared. And, we see the island, or we see the flaming island and the marine ships in the background with the island behind them. And it's just like, yeah, they look gone. And Dory and Broggy are there, and they're just like, what in the world? A robot with haki? And how did that make them vanish? Just like, oh god, what happened? How did this happen? And we see Usopp and Chopper are just like the tears of relief are coming down. It's like they're hugging Jinbei. And I can't tell, but Jinbei looks a little bit panicked. I'm like, to be fair, they did just fall like however many thousands of feet. And land in the water safely after being chased by a skeleton horse guy. And saw the other Gorosei, so there's that. So, Jinbei being a little bit panicked is understandable. And it's Usopp just going like, we did it. We landed safely. And I think it's Sanji is shouting down at Nami, and because he's just like, are you okay, Nami-san? And she's like, I'm fine, but Atlas and Edison, because it's like, they saw Atlas blow up, and then Edison jumped down, and he's the one that activated the Pyrobrine clouds, the Sky Island clouds, so that way they could, go out further and then jump down. But, again, it seems like Edison is offline. So, I don't think, unless Edison purposely turned his, system off, so that way his connection to Punk Records off, so that way York couldn't track him the same way that, Atlas did to Lilith. I don't know. Now, we don't see Stussy at all this chapter. Bonnie is probably still just kind of, very tired and on the ship, on the Great Eric, so she's probably kind of down and out for the moment, unfortunately, which is fair. We don't see Stussy or York this chapter, so York is still on the island, and someone else is at least still on the island, and that's Saturn. And we see Saturn, and he's back in his, human form, staring up at Emmett, and he's just like quiet. And Emmett is thinking, and the last bit of this chapter is basically a flashback for Emmett, which is nice. And it's Emmett talking to Joy Boy. And it's just like, listen up, Emmett. The time is at hand. The time? And we see, so it is still possible that Joy Boy might be a Buccaneer. That's kind of been a popular theory going on right now, that Joy Boy was a Buccaneer. But in this bit, we do kind of see Joy Boy in comparison in size to Emmett. But I don't remember if we've gotten the exact scale of Emmett at this point in time in regards to how big he is. Like, he is this many meters tall or anything like that. But we see Emmett, and he's wearing clothes similar to, I think it's what Broggy wears. Similar to that, like the overall type things. And he's wearing that, and we see Joy Boy, and Joy Boy we don't get too much, but we see him, wearing like the straw hat, which is, we kind of figured that's what he wears, because, giant straw hat that's in, Marie Schwa freezer, in Pangea, and everything. And he's just like, I'm gonna gather my most powerful Haki and seal it inside you. Wow. And it's just like, you're bound to live much longer than me. I'm not gonna always be around to help. And Emmett's just like, oh, that sounds terrible. And Joy Boy is just like, at some point, you're going to be in mortal danger, or someone you want to save will be. When that happens, untie the knot. So we are getting this size comparison between like how big, Emmett is compared to like how big, Joy Boy is. And Joy Boy seems to be like a regular sized human, but then again, perspective here, people, and he's in shadow, so it's just like, I don't know. If he's a Buccaneer, that's fine. If he's a giant, well, he's not a giant, but if he's like a Buccaneer, that's great, or whatever, fine. And so this is saying that he took the Haki, he somehow compressed his Haki down into this knot, and then put this, knot system inside of Emmett, so that way he could then pull the knot when it was time to release his Haki, and that's what we just saw happen. So he's thinking, so when the time is at hand, you'll still be there to help? And Joy Boy is just like, yes! I love this. Yes, of course. And it's just like, that's right. Whenever it happens, I'll be saving you from here in the past, just like always. And Emmett is just like, we get like the happy robot, which is cute. And he's just like, that makes me happy. Thanks. Like, Emmett, like, I love that we're getting like, Emmett has personality, and I love that. And, like, he clearly cares about Joy Boy, and Joy Boy clearly cared about him. Now, whether or not Emmett was, like, one of many giant robots is left up for debate. And even if he was, it doesn't mean that they can't all have personality. I mean, like, Kuma was turned into a cyborg, and until he lost his memories, he still had his personality. So Emmett might be this similar type of thing where he is this giant robot, and he might be, artificial, but he has his own memories and his own personality and everything like that. Kind of like the droids in Star Wars, how they have their own personality, like C-3PO and R2-D2 and BB-8. Like, they all have their own personalities. It's just, as do, so many of the other droids, because that's the way that they're programmed, is to have different personalities and develop them over time. But they all still just, like, have programming, and they're all, artificially made. They're all, constructs. So, Joy Boy's telling me, yeah, it'll be fine. And, I'll save you from the past again. And it's just like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. And Joy Boy's just like, hey, that's not gonna happen for ages. And ages and ages and ages. And we cut from the flashback back to the present where Emmett seems to have stopped moving. And he's just like, I hope I don't get lonely. He. And so it's like he's just kind of like shutting down again. Now, Luffy is still right near him and is probably still providing at least some form of power. And the little editor's note I like is like dreaming of memories. They will be on break next. Are they on break next week or not? I don't remember. Maybe. If they are, they are. If they're not, whatever. I'll be back next week if there's a chapter. Um, but so it's like, yeah, we cut from like Joy Boy and Emmett just like talking in the past to the present, where it's just like Emmett is like currently kind of facing down like Saturn, and Saturn is still on the island. Now, there could be the reason that like the other four got sent back to, Pangea, to the Room of Authority, is because of the fact that, they incurred enough damage because of this, that, or they got sent out of range of Saturn or something like that, that they were sent back. Now, it is quite possible that Saturn could always just like redo whatever the summoning thing he did, chapters and chapters ago when he summoned them in the first place, and just like do that and, summon them that way. But that may not be the case, because he may be too low on energy because he got knocked into his human form now. And he's not in his yokai form anymore, so he may not be able to be so useful at the moment. Plus, if there was that much damage incurred to them and we saw Eam was in pain, Eam may be something that, has to offer some type of offset power to allow them to teleport. Although this means that like if Saturn can't just teleport back to the Room of Authority, he's going to have to then get back on whatever marine ships are still useful and be sailed all the way back to Marie Joie, back to the Red Port, and then taken all the way back up to Marie Joie and to Castle Pangea. Chewing out Kizaru the entire way. Kizaru is just like, is he still laying on the ground nursing his headache? Yes. I'm not in the mood to deal with this. Bring me food. Just like huffs his way off. Skitters his way back into his private chambers on the boat. On the ship. Bring me food. Whatever. So it's just like, I don't know what we're going to get with that. I don't know if we're going to see anything with that here. We'll probably get something in the next chapter. Did you hear noise outside, Boo? Was there noise? So the Straw Hats have been reunited. We still have to have Usopp and Nami and Zoro kind of have their little reunion with like Dory and Bragi type of a thing, and have Chopper get to meet them, and Jinbei and everything. Yep, all of that. We still have to have that. Lilith is still on the Thousand Sunny as far as we are aware. She should still be there. So they are at least escaping, hopefully, with at least one of the Vegapunks. York is still on the island. So there is, if anything, it'll be, well, she may still be under the complete and utter delusion that she might be getting a place as a Tenryubito. That's not happening, lady. That's not happening. That was never going to happen in the first place anyway, you idiot. That what might happen is, she'll get grabbed by Saturn and by the, Marines and get, locked away and everything, or get knocked out and wake up in a cell somewhere in Marie Joie, or whatever the case may be. The Seraphim still seem to be in the hands of the Marines, and they would just give them one order from the Gorosei, and they'll follow the Gorosei. Vegapunk really should have thought about a fail-safe system for the Seraphim as well, because there was that fail-safe system for all of the Pacifista, because they all had the hierarchy of like, yeah, there's all of the Gorosei, that same hierarchy, but Bonnie supersedes everything. And there is the possibility that, that could also apply to S-Bear, but we didn't see any of that. And there could be the possibility that there could be some type of, an override on the others. I made that comment that, for all of the different Seraphim, there could be someone who is, an override, because we saw the S-Snake, go goo-goo-eyed over Luffy, and, release the others from being, stone and everything. So there's a possibility that there might be some type of an override inside of each of them, just because of their lineage factor, but we don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up being something that happens. And we don't know where Kaku, Stussy, or Lucci are at the moment. Stussy may be able to just fly her way out of there. Maybe she tried to find Edison. Maybe she tried to escape with Edison. Kaku may have gone to try to find Lucci. Depending on what's going on with that, there could be the possibility that Lucci, now that Kaku and Lucci get, either they get taken back with the Marines, which is a possibility, or they end up getting left behind and just like escape on their own or something like that. That's a possibility. But Punk Records still seems to be intact, so as long as that's intact, Egghead Island still has some type of use for the Gorosei. I think that's about it at the moment. Nope. In regards to My Hero ending, I don't know. Maybe I'll do something about it, but I'm not sure. We'll see. I haven't made that decision yet. So that's what I have here. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.